Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Captain Jin Lee. I'll be your narrator for today's ceremony. On behalf of today's presiding officer, Deputy Chief, Civil Engineer Division, Directorate of Logistics, Engineering and Force Protection, Headquarters Pacific Air Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Mark Leonard, welcome to the retirement ceremony in honor of Lieutenant Colonel Ann Birchard. We would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished visitors, family, and friends. Lieutenant Colonel Retired Col Ann Birchard. Chris and Rita Birchard. Peter, Henry, and Kaylin Birchard. Cora Fisher. Brigadier General Retired Roy Augustine. Colonel Retired Rebecca Baum. Colonel William Brooks. Captain Marlene Sanchez. Captain Jeff Devini. Today we pay special tribute to Lieutenant Colonel Birchard after 28 years of dedicated service to our country and the United States Air Force. As a courtesy, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones or set them to silent mode. Recognizing a member who is retiring from a career of long and honorable service is one of the oldest traditions in the military. A retirement ceremony is a prestigious event and the highest honor we can give a retiring Air Force member. The ceremony is used to say thank you for faithful service, to wish good luck in future endeavors, and to bid a heartfelt farewell as a service member transitions into retirement. Through this transition, we must remember that military retirement is just an extension of an active duty career, and that the retired member will continue to be a valued part of the United States Air Force community. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the posting of the colors and the singing of our national anthem.
Post the colors.
Oh. And cut. Forward. Mark. Forward. Mark. Ready? 2. Ready? 1. Color. Halt. Present. Hearts.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Or hearts. Colors. Colors turn. Harsh. Ready? 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. In your programs, you'll find Lieutenant Colonel Birchard's biography. At this time, Colonel Leonard, please come forward to share your remarks on Lieutenant Colonel Birchard's and her career.
Welcome, everybody. Our A4C family, our engineering family, helping us retire Ann and seeing her on the way to her next endeavors in life. So I kind of promised her I wouldn't roast her. We normally start off with, hey, where's the person from? But she didn't want us to do that. But knowing Ann, you got to kind of think, where does she come from? Because if you know Ann can be the sweetest person at telling you to go get bent, right? You can put Ann in any situation, whether it was the Queen of England or in a bar with a bunch of rowdy, no offense, Randy, Navy guys, and she would probably embarrass the Navy guys. So Ann can cover both spectrums of that. So that's as much as the roasting I'll do for you.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So let's just go over Ann's career a little bit here. So Ann's a civil engineer, graduated from Penn State. I won't make any Penn State jokes. They're probably all red dot nowadays anyway. So Ann started at the 12th Civil Engineering Squadron at Randolph Air Force Base. And that's where we grow them, train them, get them started in their first assignment. But one of the tasks that Ann was given in that first assignment was, hey, you got to clean up the work information management system, all the project files. I think they have $48 million worth of stuff that she was tasked with and getting it all squared away. And I look back at her records, I look at some of the guys she worked for, and high praise from some of the guys I had worked for later down the road. Colonel Emmett Smith, probably the hardest working 06 you'll ever meet from AO staff level, but hard to please. And she got very good accolades out of him. She was recognized self-starter and a person that the other officers should emulate. So Ann's got her a little bit of bluing there in the engineering world, and they send her off to the Azores, Portugal, to work for the 65th Civil Engineering Squadron. There she's doing maintenance engineering function. Stands up maintenance engineering, does work order prioritization, and that's about the same time Air Force is under, Stephen Covey, Total Quality Air Force, Total Quality Management. So Ann has to come up with the flight's quality management briefing. She does that and does very well at it, and that becomes the wing standard for how the other units across the wing will work. Ann does her year there. She's going back. She has a habit of going back to different assignments or different locations. Back to Randolph, or actually to Kelly Air Force Base, where there she's the chief of Sabre. And Sabre is, we copy from the Navy. That's our ability to do small acquisition for base engineering requirements. So Ann's the chief of that program, and you look at her records, she's accredited for turning that program around. Failed program. She increases manning 200%. Uses her personality. She integrates the engineers with the shop guys, technician, gets to both the best worlds, and starts executing that program. 70 projects, over $5 million in that 1 year, the largest they've done in their record. That's all attributed to Ann's ability to get people to work together. So Ann's got her base level experience and she gets pulled up to the air staff, but she doesn't go directly to the air staff. The first job they give her is Pentagon liaison officer. So you ask me, what is that? Pentagon liaison office is in charge of doing a $1.2 billion renovation of the largest by square foot office building in the world. So Ann's in charge of moving 8 different organizations, 50 different units in that throughout those organizations, 500 people, and about $600,000 worth of modifications to lease space. And she gets those folks out and moved in about 6 months. Now she's not working for the engineer there. She's working for the acquisition folks and the Secretary of the Air Force side. Great accolades out of that. On time, delivered in budget, and exceeded all expectations. So then she does that 1 year of torture. I'm sure that was a pretty arduous job and time consuming, but she goes over and she starts working for the civil engineer. At that time it was General Lupio. So she's not exposed to General Lupio that much because they put her in the vault. She's working in air base readiness and the Red Horse, which is our heavy construction unit, she's the program manager for those two programs. But along the way, she's tasked with going around and briefing Assistant Secretary of Defense, because we're going to put Red Horse units in coastal operations. So Ann does that successfully, deploy those units there. And a little bit prophetic is she starts revitalizing how we do readiness reporting in the Air Force for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force for engineering units. And that's, we're right at the cusp of 9/11 at that time. So Ann leaves the Pentagon right before 9/11. She hits here to PACAF staff when we were still in A7 back then. And she's charged, it starts with where we put most of the officers back then, starting coming in learning. She's working organization and manpower and training. She does that, and at that time, we're into the deployment tasking of Operation Southern Watch. She gets deployed, she goes to Al Jabber, and she programs and manages over $145 million worth of projects in support of operations throughout the Kuwait theater area. Does some movement and permanent bed down in temporary facilities for a bunch of fighter aircraft, and then she comes back. She comes back to another job at PACAF staff, and we'll serve her well later on. She's the chief of plans and readiness. And in that thing, she starts, getting the plans development. And one of the real things that she does is starts off that carries endurance today is she employs GeoReach, which is our geographic information system that has, expeditionary planning capabilities, parking, bed down, stuff that we use today. She got it started in PACAF and got it deployed to all the units. And then, thankful for all that work, she gets pulled up. She's a major by now, pulled up, and she's working for the exec, Colonel Napoleon. She does that time, and with her personality, she's very good at telling the 06s to shut up and color, and keeping the staff in line and beating all the suspenses that she does. So whether it was a reward or not, or whether she worked it from when she was a program manager, she gets a Red Horse assignment, the 823rd Red Horse in Herbert Field. She's the ops officer. That's where the rubber meets the road. So, and we're in the deployment time frame then. So Ann, first thing she gets there, she has a unit compliance inspection she's got to deal with, which there's a lot of deficiencies, and that's just the paperwork part of her business. So Ann fixes that there, and only about a month to do it, I think, if I remember correctly. She fixes that, they pass that, and then Hurricane Isabel comes up, and she has to go up, and they have to restore the first fighter wing at Langley Air Force Base back to operations. Does a great job of that. Then she's tasked to go to the CENTCOM theater. I see her, I'm the deputy group commander at Balad, and here comes Ann walking through the halls, starting Red Horse projects preparation. One of those projects at Balad she prepared was, we'd blown that runway up. That was one of their training bases. And we had taken it over. It was an Army LSA at that time, and Ann's job there was to repair that runway, restore it, get rid of the temporary repairs, and restore the runway to operation. So, I don't know what it was about her project, but back in those days, she took out big areas, displaced thresholds. And I don't know if she had a bet with the Russian aircraft guys. So, we had Russian aircraft contract carriers back then. And somehow they would see who could land the closest to those open holes. And that wasn't a one-time occurrence. That occurred every time. I don't know if it was vodka taking over or... But I remember that about Ann coming through the scope of that project. And then later on, she would do more projects throughout that theater. And those times were, those weren't permissive times. Those weren't open or free. We were getting, harassed and attacked every day, rockets, mortars. Her unit, through that endeavor, her leadership was awarded the Outstanding Unit Decoration with Valor at that time, which is pretty good. So our next assignment is, let's see, where did we go after that? She gets pulled up to go to the AMC staff. So Ann's major at that time. she gets stuck in the requirements division. So what that is that's all the MILCOM programming, execution, basing, operation. So Ann's challenged with, and she does another fantastic job, $400 million program to bed down new tankers throughout AMC. But in that time also, you know, we're in the joint engineering taskings, and we're helping support our joint partners, and she goes and leads the Army facility engineering team at Salerno. She does great there. She does millions of dollars worth of projects, established rotary air operations there, fixes the infrastructure, does a lot of quality of life stuff, and gets that fob up and running for them. Comes back to that, and she's lieutenant colonel now. About that time, they put her in the asset management division. So what is that? That's the Air Force's way of organizing around a concept instead of executing concept. But anyway, Ann's in there, and she's managing housing, privatization, environmental, real property, and all that. So she's tasked with overseeing privatization. They privatized 1,700 units or something, which will serve her later where they got her in mind to go, a working housing program. And she implements the environmental management system throughout AMC at that time. But her deployment's not done in her time there. About 3 years she's spent there. They'd send her out to, at that time, you know, we had airmen working for different service components. So she stands up, and she's the deputy group commander for the first expeditionary prime beat group, where we roll in airmen working for airmen. And I think you had a 06 female to the mid back then that took over that. So Ann and her, they stood that up, and they started delivering projects throughout that theater. To include, I think one of them was heading down to French headquarters, coalition forces, in about 14 days. So I'm sure there was wine or something and sarcasm coming probably out to keep those guys in line to get to the total line to get them in their facilities. So after her AMC stint, General Carter gets her, sends her out to do her first squadron command, Kadena Air Force Base. So Ann's very lucky in this regard. She takes over. Was Kelly's in that flight, I think, at that time, right? Or that squadron. She got over 800 military, civilian, host nation, contractor people working for her. She's the executive agent for all the housing on Okinawa at that time. Big job. Not to mention all the construction projects, programming, management, and all that. And her unit, Air Force level and PACAF level awards. So like I said, you know, Ann has a habit of going back somewhere. So guess where Ann goes next? She's going back to Red Horse. She gets a job as the group commander, which typically when you get to that level as the deputy group commander, you know, you're stuck, you're doing the paper, you're doing the admin stuff. But Ann is fortunate enough, she gets deployed to Rota, Spain. Is that right?
Yes.
And then she's working for the 68th, I believe, Combined Task Force. And their mission is to do humanitarian projects throughout their area of operation. So she's doing humanitarian projects, schools, clinics in Bulgaria, Romania, places like that. She does a fantastic job there. Comes back, and her reward is she gets signed. I missed assignment. You took over the Silver Flag assignment early on too.
It wasn't
After
Col
one of your
Ann.
deployments, yeah. But she did great things there at the Silver Flag assignment. She took that over. Got an outstanding inspection from the services side of the house. Instituted the chaplain's readiness program. Did all that stuff. That was her first time. But after her last assignment at the Red Horse as a deputy, coming back from Rhodes, she goes. Her next assignment is a really tough one. And she'll have to explain. You can ask her later over here what this was. Her whole assignment at that time, she's the deputy program manager at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, Shape, Belgium, Mons, Belgium. So I look at her records, and her whole record is chasing this headquarters construction project. Her whole time there. So I asked her, "Is that true?" Yeah, and I go, "Did it get built?" No. So at the end of that assignment, Ann's destined to come back to PACAF. So we just basically trade another lieutenant colonel for Ann. Ann comes back to the staff, but the staff has changed back then, right? It's not what she used to do when she was the exec. Very small, very area of responsibility is a lot less. It's more focused on readiness, and it's new. It's basically is only like she's the second branch chief that took over that job, and we're still figuring our way out through this new organization construct that we have at MASCOM. And along comes at this time is, you saw the news, all the saber rattling that North Korea did, and our job at that time, and with us, was to make sure that we were postured to defeat Korea if we get in that conflict. So we spent a lot of time and night, long hours, and making sure our units were ready, that had materials there. I think we had over $80-some million of project stuff, LIMFAC stuff that we got money for. We got units in Red Horse again. We deployed those in there, and we took care of a lot of LIMFACs and shortfalls, and that's a lot of effort to Ann's work and here on the PACAF staff. At the same time, she's growing our engagement program, which is important to this theater because, the United States Air Force and the U.S. government, we want to be the partners of choice in this theater with the growing influence of China. So Ann's done 5-year plans with all of our allies and partners. She's reinstituted base resiliency exercises. So our bases that are assigned to go to a certain location, they go in there and they exercise. They do airfield recovery ops. They work with their coalition partners. They train with the coalition partners. And she's increasing capacity and making them more interoperable with us. And she's also leading engagements where we're showing presence and we're access to all these countries that we want to keep our influence in and want to recognize the U.S. as the partner of choice. So I know that's very quick, and I promise Ann, it's hot out here. We'll get everybody so we can go partake of her food and drink. And I saw I saw Jim Schaefer out here somewhere. A lot of old time Lynn is out here. A lot of the old time A7 folks are back in her day when we were our own engineering directorate. Glad to see you guys out, and thanks for everybody else for coming. One other thing, Ann. So we were doing this thing called Colors the other day, True Colors, and no, Ann, it's not your favorite song by Cyndi Lauper. This is kind of a personality trait thing. So we have a facilitator. So think about it. There are a bunch of engineers in there. So what are we? A lot of introverts, a lot of people that, hey, I want to know, define what am I got to do? What am I got to deliver? I want to plan it. I want to do it to the nth degree. And our facilitator goes, in every group we at least have one person that's a blue color, blue. And we go, and unanimously, everybody in there from our division goes, oh, that's Ann. She's missing though. She's on terminal leave. So Ann, here's what I wanted to share with you before I go from your PACAF family. Here's what a blue person is. A blue person is enthusiastic, sympathetic, personal, warm, communicative, compassionate, idealistic, spiritual, sincere, peaceful, flexible, and imaginative. And Ann, I tell you, we're going to miss you. We loved you being on the staff, and it was great having you as a partner there working through all the stuff we worked through. So Godspeed, and wish you guys well in your next endeavor. And I'm going to give you this as our...
Leonard, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the reading of the citation to accompany the award. Attention to orders. The Meritorious Service Medal 7th Oak Leaf Cluster is presented to Lieutenant Colonel Ann M. Birchard for meritorious service from 14 September 2017 to 30 September 2019. Lieutenant Colonel Ann M. Birchard distinguished herself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Chief Readiness Branch, Civil Engineer Division, Directorate of Logistics, Engineering and Force Protection, Headquarters Pacific Air Forces, Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam, Hawaii. During this period, Colonel Birchard drove significant improvements to the combat readiness of over 2,800 engineers across the Indo-Pacific theater and forged a clear plan for enhancing the capabilities and interoperability of key partner nations. Under her leadership, Pacific Air Force's engineers participated in over 100 engagements with 22 partner nations developing capability and interoperability in airfield damage repair, command and control, explosive ordnance disposal, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear operations. Furthermore, Colonel Birchard spearheaded efforts to bolster readiness on the Korean Peninsula by posturing 142 engineers on project development teams, ultimately identifying $200 million in infrastructure projects aimed at eliminating operational plan limiting factors. Finally, Colonel Birchard led effort to fill the Air Force's first modernized damage assessment capability, a $12.5 million solution that employs unmanned aerial systems to safeguard personnel from unexploded ordnance while conducting post-attack airfield damage assessment and mapping. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Birchard culminate a distinguished career in the service of our country and reflect great credit upon ourselves and the United States Air Force. Colonel Leonard will now formally retire Lieutenant Colonel Birchard.
Read the orders.
Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number Alpha Charlie 002549, dated 14 November 2018. Lieutenant Colonel Ann M. Birchard, effective 30 September 2019, you are relieved from active duty from the Readiness Branch, Civil Engineer Division, Headquarters Pacific Air Forces, Joint Base, Pearl Harbor, Hickam, Hawaii. Retired effective 1 October 2019 in the grade of Lieutenant Colonel by order of Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. To commemorate her retirement, Colonel Leonard will now present the retirement certificate to Lieutenant Colonel Birchard from General David L. Goldfein, Air Force Chief of Staff. Lieutenant Colonel Birchard will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Sorry, we're ahead of the time. Go ahead.
Every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their active duty service. At this time, I'd like to ask Commander Retired Randall Johnson to place this pin on Lieutenant Colonel Birchard to symbolize her transition from active duty to retired status.
This could be payback.
I didn't rehearse this at all.
Colonel Leonard will now present a certificate of appreciation for Colonel Birchard's husband, Commander Retired Randall Johnson, from the United States Air Force, signed by General David L. Goldfein, the Air Force Chief of Staff.
You're done.
Colonel Leonard will now present a certificate of appreciation for Colonel Birchard's daughter, Mackenzie Johnson, from the United States Air Force, signed by General Charles Q. Brown, the Commander of the Pacific Air Forces.
So Kenzie, we have you to thank for all those Monday morning baked goods, but I just want you to do one thing. Tell your mama more butter and more nuts.
At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Birchard would like to present a gift to her daughter, Mackenzie. Ladies and gentlemen, Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam Honor Guard will now perform the 13th flagpole. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and the design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling over Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words of the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong landed on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the thin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our United States Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. In 1776, no generation of Americans have been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others want for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Thank you, Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam Honor Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we all been waiting for, today's honoree, Lieutenant Colonel Ann M. Birchard, retired.
So someone knows me. Tissues. Well, let me start by thanking Mark for officiating today. It took some bribery in the form of baked goods with nuts in it. Everyone's got a price. Banana bread with walnuts. seriously, thank you for agreeing to do this. It meant a lot to me. A thank you to Riley for singing the national anthem, and Mackenzie for singing the anthem. You two ladies are very talented. To Captain Lee, Captain Williams, Sergeant Edra, Jackson, and Calizo, thank you for helping me put this together. I know they're all back here. Thank you so much. Cora, Chris, Rita, Peter, Henry, and Katie, thank you so much for coming out to be a part of my ceremony. A special thank you to Chief Lewis and his wife Josie for flying out to attend. Thank you. It's a hardship tour, but thank you. To Ari and her kiddos flying in from Okinawa. It means a lot to me and my family to have you all here. I have been honored to preside over 16 retirements, to include a virtual one where I wrote the speech and the captain read it, and a dual one of a husband and wife chief team. I even had the honor of presiding over Chief Lewis's retirement. By far, being the presiding official is the easiest position to be in. No getting choked up saying your thanks, making sure you haven't forgotten anyone, and making sure you don't say anything you'll regret. Sitting on this side is rough. I have literally spent my entire life as part of the Air Force. I was born in a military hospital. My dad retired after 20 years of carting us around the world, did ROTC, and then was active duty. In the blink of an eye, it's been 28 years, and time to say goodbye. Time to start choking up. Okay, there are three kinds of people in this world. Those who can count and those who can't. I'll wait for the dirt boys to get the joke.
Going to Hooters later, man.
Okay. You, my Air Force family, certainly count. We've made lots of memories, good, bad, and ugly. We've bitched and moaned. We've laughed and cried. We've made lasting friendships that won't end after today. You have taught me many things. Some things are what not to do, that I will hopefully be able to teach Mackenzie as she grows up. Work ethic, honesty, loyalty, patriotism, and being a part of something that is bigger than yourself. Thank you all for supporting me throughout my career. I couldn't have gotten here without you. My next thank goes to my parents, Carl and Dean. I was a brat growing up, shocker. Now I'm just hard-headed and stubborn. I was a terrible student. I was a terrible student in college, and you kept kicking my backside to do better. I surprised you by joining ROTC, but you were there to support me. You have visited me at every single assignment I've been to. You have been my sounding board and my cheerleader when needed, the sound of reason when warranted, and you continue to be amazing parents. Chris and I got really lucky in having you as parents. And again, I'm choking up. I'm breaking my own advice I used to give to the retirees by not thanking the hardest ones first. So lastly, and the hardest, my thanks to Mackenzie and Brandy. Mackenzie, thank you for letting Mommy go to work in the gym when you wanted me to stay at home and put your hair up, to take you to school events, and thank you for letting me go to Australia where there are attacked koalas. Who knew? Mommy, can't you just call your friends and tell them you can't come in? If only it were that easy. But now I don't have to call my friends. Your daddy and I are so proud of you. Be smart, be kind. I love you. Randy, coming up on 23 years of traveling this earth together, exploring everything that can be hiked, dived, driven, or shopped. You've been raising our daughter, one more time. You've been raising our daughter, and I quote, your toughest job ever. Even though you still can't put her hair up in a ponytail, she's a tough, resilient, funny character that we're so lucky to have, and you've done an awesome job as dad. Thank you for supporting me these last 6 years by being the dependent and letting me see this journey to the end. I love you. Still choking up. I've been asked numerous times, what am I going to do after I retire? Well, here's my list. I'm growing out my bangs, and they're going to touch my eyebrows. If my hair is below my collar, it's staying there. My nails will be painted pink with sparkles. I'm going to have a purse that's a color besides black. And it will probably be bigger than the one I've got now because I won't have all those wonderful pockets in my uniform to load up. Finally, and I know this will take a while to deprogram, but I'm not going to go hunting for my cover every time I want to go outside. So what am I going to do after I retire? I'm going to be Mackenzie's mom. Thank you all again for helping me celebrate my 28 years in the Air Force. And now I'm going to go bum my eyes out.
We of the Civil Engineering Division are proud to have served with Lieutenant Colonel Ann Birchard retired. We wish her continued success and Godspeed. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the singing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, soon to meet our thunder. Adam boys, give with the guns, give with the guns, and down they fly, sighting the flames from under. Off with one hell of a roar, we live and flame, when we're down in flames. Hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony for today. Please join Lieutenant Colonel Birchard, retired, for some cake and refreshments. Thank you for attending, and we wish you a pleasant day.